Okay. So you are moving to the top.
Yeah.
Okay. Up here on the top, the kids are all sort of talking. Not too far from where they tend to hang out, kind of over here near the front, where they can kind of like watch all the water pass by this way. Look at the cool dragon head on your boat. Seeing you, Avina's gonna run over, because it has been a while. And looking up at you, she says, Thorvald, you look a little different. Noting the mantle.
Yeah. I say, I am different. I'm finally free.
As you say this, the other kids are kind of walking over. And Emran kind of pauses, looking at you curiously, as Fritjolf approaches. And he says, it's been a while.
Fritjolf. Are you
Thorvald?
treating Irina alright?
I am. I haven't stolen anything lately.
That's good.
He kind of smiles wistfully and he says, not that I've gotten caught anyway.
I actually do have something for you.
Huh? For me?
Why don't you come here? Come over here. Or like a gesture over.
Okay. He's curious.
There's a cook down in the lower bowels. His name is... what's his name?
Floki.
His name is Floki. Miss Russo spotted something on him. It looked like poison. You think you could snoop around and see if you can find the vial of red liquid that he has?
A vial of red liquid that the chef has.
Yes.
That should be easy
I want
enough.
to know what... I want to get down to this.
Okay. I could take a look for you. Anything I need to be aware of?
Yes, these are all Vinhold's men. They all know each other. Even if Vinhold himself isn't up to anything, and they are, this could be very bad.
Vinhold, eh? Does Vinhold know that Fritjof is a Fastener? Or like affiliated with the Fasteners?
You shouldn't.
I don't think so. Does Fritjof know that Vinhold is affiliated with the Merchant Union?
Yes.
Was Fritjof there during the meeting?
I told Fritjof about Sealer being
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Merchant Union, and then he knows Vinhold's full name, I imagine.
Yeah, okay, I'm sure he probably does. So he nods and he says, alright, I'll be careful. When did you need this?
Take your time and be careful. I have 50 gold with your name on it.
With that, his face lights up and he's like, I'll be on it. And coming over to Avina, he sort of walks up and squeezes her hand and sort of like whispers something to her. And they look at each other and exchange a few words, and then he's going to walk this way, sort of eyeing Rorkval, matted with blood and slime as he does so.
Blood and slime? Oh yeah. I guess I should clean off my gorilla.
Clean your gorilla.
Yeah, so I go ahead and...
Stairs on this thing.
Is there any way I can like get water to him? I guess there's like a bucket and a winch somewhere over the side of the boat.
Okay, I see. The stairs are actually right here. This is just like an upper deck area. This map only shows like this and that, and those are the upper decks. And this middle area is the same as what's up there.
Oh, okay.
And so this is like the rooms there. So you guys live like basically on the deck of the ship almost. At least Olivier does. So real quick, just to kind of get caught up with the situation. What had happened is Olivier was gambling with some of the sailors down here,
Yeah.
including Floki the cook, and she had rolled a 100 on her D100 and noticed a small, suspicious-looking vial filled with red liquid. And she intimidated Floki, but when asked about it, he sort of raised his hands defensively, showed some spice out of his chef's frock, and excused himself, going back to cooking. That was when she told you about it, and the two of you started shaking him down. So she's currently giving him the business and harassing him. You had sort of glanced around the room but didn't find anything. And so now you headed up to involve Fritjof?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, he's going to come in here and go downstairs. Whoop. Yeah, so downstairs actually brings him to here. But coming down here, he's going to sort of looking through the little the round window there. He sees Olivier patting him down. He's like, well, I can't do this quite yet. So he's just going to sort of make himself busy in the area, trying to overhear stuff, see what he can gather. I'm actually gonna have him roll investigation. Wow, he rolled an 18. Okay. Give him some time on that. He's gonna be working on that.
Alright.
So in the meantime, Avina and Emmerin, she is going to sort of come over to introduce Emmerin to you. I think Avina has been in the company of the gypsies before when you guys visited them at the camp. But they've only really recently started hitting it off now that everyone's together on your ship. Emmerin's still looking at you very curiously.
I walk over to Emmerin. And you are?
And she says, "Oh, I'm Emmerin. I'm Mama Swertu's granddaughter." And looking up at you, you see that her eyes are like a solid milky white.
Interesting eye color.
And a little bashful, she says, "Oh, yes, I'm a sightseer. That's why I look a little different." And a little self-conscious of it, she says, You're the one that we thought was an Erstradi." And she says, I remember your voice and this presence as well.
A lot of people think I'm something that I'm not.
She says, yes, well, you are a little different. And sort of peering at you, she squints her eyes and she says, you're different now, too, than you were before, when you visited us back in Port Hildian.
I'm more in tune with my nature magic than before.
And she nods slowly and she says, yes, maybe that's it. Sorry, I'm probably being rude.
It's alright.
She says,
so, you're making good friends with Fritjof and Avina.
She says, yes, it's nice to have people here my own age. I'm afraid I'd be pretty bored otherwise. Everybody else around here's, well, a lot older than me.
What do you plan to do when you reach port?
I don't know. I think maybe we might just go our own way. The wandering women tend to be travelers. But technically this is traveling, so I don't know. I don't know if our minds are made up yet. But it was probably time to be moving on.
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
I
If
need
you
to
need to
speak to
speak with
Mama
her,
Swear to.
she's below decks. You'll find her down at the bottom.
Alright. It was nice to meet you,
Imran.
Emerin.
Here.
Nice to meet you.
You should be able to see her name, right?
Yeah, I had to like squint.
Gotcha. And she nods, still sort of curiously gazing at you above your head. Not all the way into the sky like with Olivier.
I take note of it and I go down to Mama Swear to.
Okay. Going down to Mama Swear to. As you pass by, Annalicia gives you like a cheery wave, and Norman Wind gives you like a quiet nod.
I nod back.
She like looks down at the floor and sort of like bustles by.
Odd. Alright.
So going over to Mama Swearto's room, you knock on the door, and there's a sort of a creak from inside as Mama Swearto rises to her feet and comes over and get that ship ambience going. Comes over to the door, opening it and seeing it's you. Her eyebrows kind of raise in surprise, and there's a brief smile as she says like, "Ah, it's you again." And then sort of studying you for a moment, the smile turns to a small frown, and she says, "You're troubled, I see. Come in. And she invites you inside.
I have a problem. I figured you might be able to help me.
What can I help you with?
Most recently I tried meditating, and it's been near impossible. I hear noises in my head, and I can't quite pinpoint.
Yes, tell me about this. She gestures over to the small table where you both take a seat.
So, it's almost like a yawning, sleeping sound. I tried isolating the energy, and from what I can see, it exists in my left shoulder blade around my neck area. It's like a stone obstructing a small river.
Listening to this, her blank, empty eyes sort of gaze at your shoulder as she contemplates the situation. She says, "I do see something there, but I can't say I'm too familiar with this sort of thing." Rising to her feet, she sort of comes to your side and she says, "May I?"
Certainly.
Sort of brushing aside one of the leather straps, she examines your shoulder and gently resting her fingers over it, she kind of rolls her eyes about as she kind of like probes, and there's like a moment where she's just sort of like holding her hands there and just like silently kind of probing, and then after a bit she sort of takes her hands off and shakes her head, and she says, I can see that there's something there, but I can't tell what it is. But I don't think it's part of you."
It mumbles and yawns constantly, as if it's always tired.
It speaks to you.
But why? What does it say?
I can't say I know for sure, but it seems you've some kind of visitor.
Visitor?
Indeed. I don't know where such a thing may have come from, but it doesn't seem to be originating from you. She shakes her head and she says, these sorts of things are beyond my expertise.
You think anybody else could help me?
And she frowns and she says, strange happenings like these may be in Vasika's realm, but I'm afraid she only speaks the old language.
Old language?
And she nods and she says, the language of the gypsies. Your friend speaks it. She speaks it quite well, I might say. It's rather unusual.
Unfortunately, they aren't available right now.
She says, well, I'm afraid this sort of thing is not something I'd be able to help you with much more. But looking at it, I can see there's something there. And you've an odd mark there on your forehead, too.
Oh yes, I know about this one.
Yes, well, I'm sorry I can't help you more.
Well, thank you for your help.
Of course, always. Thank you for passage aboard your vessel.
It will always be my pleasure.
You're a pleasant young man. I'm surprised you're not of Nostrati stock. Still,
Sometimes I wonder where I'm really from.
it would be pretty unusual. Men aren't often born to the Nostrati gypsies.
I never knew my parents, my actual parents.
Do you have a possession of theirs?
Yes, but it's with Avina. At the moment, it's a knife.
The crude obsidian knife was given to you by your parents?
Well, I was found with it.
Yeah, I think you were found with it. Do you have any belongings belonging to your parents?
That's the only thing that's like, I can speculate that it might have, but I don't think I've ever scried it, to be honest. I scried the FN dagger, I scried like a bunch of the stuff belonging to those murdered people, but I don't think I ever did a scrying for the obsidian knife.
Yeah, the obsidian knife. Obsidian is made from volcanic glass, right? Or it is volcanic glass.
Yeah.
Interesting. And so that was just something you always had?
Yeah.
But you didn't necessarily make it yourself?
No, I was too young to probably have made it. I was 6 years old, or actually younger than that, when they found me.
Okay. Okay, interesting.
So somebody made it.
Yeah.
Maybe it was goblins.
And she sort of shakes her head and she says, well, if you should come across an anchor, I can look into it for you.
Alright, I will.
With a nod and like a graceful gesture, she comes across the door and invites you out.
I leave.
Okay. Standing outside of Mama Suertu's room, there's sort of like a slow creak as the ship sort of like makes its way through the ocean toward the Isle of Drifeldur. There's an empty, unused room here, as well as a small, unused table here.
Alright.
Just notes.
Okay. Yeah, look inside.
Yeah.
Alright.
Looking inside this small room, it's not a big space. It's like a large closet, 5 by 9. Not too bad. You've got like a roomy 5 by 15 foot room. It's a pretty massive door, come to think of it. It's like a 5-foot door. It's a sturdy, foldable ship. The sea air fills your lungs as the ship sort of gently sways from side to side.
I go back into my room and I meditate.
Okay. As you continue meditating, small plants sprout from the ground. As they
I
typically do.
try and isolate that voice again. I say in my mind calmly, "Are you there? Can you hear me?"
Again, there's like a very faint like, yeah.
Wake up.
There is a response.
What will it take for me to help you if you're in trouble? Are you in trouble?
And there's only like a very quiet like in response. And you're basically just trying to like talk at this thing.
Yeah.
It does seem to be responding to you. It's just on a very basic level.
The fuck is it? I'm trying to think, like, what do... Alright. Guess it's time to teach Venhold some stuff.
Okay.
What else I'm gonna do with that voice?
Okay. Venhold has sort of been reflecting. Let's see, where would Venhold hole up? Venhold might take this nice room here. Actually, we'll give Leonte that room, I'm sure. I'm sure she would probably be like, this is the nicest room, I'm taking it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, maybe right here. Somewhere where he can quickly be in the action, but also be tucked away. Okay. So, when you find Venhold, he is in his room up here.
Okay. Alright, so where? Let's see. Oh, okay. Alright. I knock on the door.
You knock on the door, and you hear like a grunt from inside say, "Hey, come on in."
I walk in.
Walking inside, you find him sitting at this small table. His room is actually pretty cramped here, but he's got a little tankard of seawater and rum, and he's drinking as he writes in a small journal.
Are you holding up alright? I see you're making yourself some grog.
And he says, "Yeah, it helps ease the nerves a little bit." And he shakes his head and he says, I don't know. This whole thing has been pretty crazy, but I think it's good what we're doing. It gets me out. I can't live in those cities like that all my life, can I?
I have some stuff to teach you. Whenever you're ready.
Oh, another lesson? Sure. Where did you want to do this? Outside?
Yes.
He says, okay. He's setting down like a small leather-bound book on the desk. He kind of rises, dusts himself off, and steps out, locking the door behind him. And then walking to the end over here, he sort of gestures upward on out of here, and he says, shall we?
Yes. And I follow him. For whatever he follows me.
Okay. And that will bring you up to the top. At this point, Avina and Emerin would probably be down here in Avina's room. Olivier's giving Floki the shakedown. I'll have to go over what she does later. But in the meantime, she'll return to her room. Work on things.
Yep.
And Rorkval is up here right now.
Yeah.
Rorkval's in the crow's nest.
Yeah, he's somewhere.
He's just way at the top. Okay. I'll go ahead and move you up here. This is where everyone is now. Rorkval is way up at the top. Coming up near where your forge is outside. Your stainless steel forge.
Yep.
He's gonna take a deep breath of the salt air. He's gonna say, man, it feels good to be out here again. Never thought I'd say I missed being on the ocean. But I certainly do now.
What do you find the most comfortable about being on the ocean?
Very little, if I'm being honest. It took me a while to get over the seasickness at first. With the gentle tugging of these waves. There's just something about it that turns my stomach. But after a while, I don't know. I guess I'm just used to it now.
Listen, Vinholt. Take a seat.
Looking around, there's not really anywhere to sit, so he just like takes a seat here.
Well, like, okay, summon a bunch of vines, like, to kind of cushion the area around us.
Okay. You're just like making like a little area on the floor?
Yeah. Big enough for both of us.
Okay. You got it. I use this all the time. This is a really nifty little token here. Okay, so you guys both sort of sit in your cushiony places here.
Yep.
Okay. Did you have content prepared for this?
No.
Okay, I was just wondering if you were like looking it up or something.
So I tell him, like, I just want to say, what you saw in that cavern was not myself.
And he
I'm
sort of
not
cocks his
proud
head,
of what I did there.
and he says, oh, well, Um, I mean, I think what happened in that cavern, anybody would have reacted the way that we did. And he
Yes,
shakes his head and he says it was a hard choice, but I mean, it was either them or us.
I understand that. It's, I've been telling you that revenge wasn't the healthiest choice, and it took me such a long time to realize that what I was doing was revenge. Valior died because I wanted vengeance. I wanted to destroy Arya Nox. I didn't give him any second chances. And it was me who left him there in the first place, to be captured.
It was you. What do you mean? You knew he was going to be captured?
No, no. When he told me to go back to Port Yildian, he said he would stay behind. I thought it was a very dangerous and stupid thing to do, but I let him.
Hmm. He's gonna roll insight. Is this something that, like, you're blaming yourself for?
Yeah.
Okay, he rolled a 5. Um, and he says, I don't think you should hold yourself responsible for what happened. I mean, you didn't put him in that situation.
I know. But I want to change. I want to not be the one to cast the first stone.
Hmm. So, what are you saying?
I intend to lead a more passive style. I have discarded myself of all my weapons.
He said you've completely disarmed yourself? He
Yes,
says, how are you gonna survive if we're faced with threats like we were down there?
I have my ways. And then I open a palm and a flame comes out.
He says, I see. You're gonna use your witch magic. I guess if I had witch magic like that, I'd feel a lot better too.
In
Honestly,
time you will.
just looking at these things, and he holds up his daggers, and he's sort of flipping them skillfully through his fingers, and he's like, they're really just little pieces of metal. He says, if I could make a flame like that, or, if I could fire off things the way that Miss Lily does, that'd be something else. Has Rousseau always been a witch?
While I can't really say what Leonte is, or yeah, whatever. Fuck, I'll just tell him. Like Lily's not. Fuck. Okay, retcon a little bit of that because I'll tell him that later. But
Okay.
I can't say much about what Lily is, but I can definitely tell you a little bit about uh, a little bit about fucking hell, a little bit
Olivier.
about Russo. She's kind of discovering her roots, and it turns out that she has draconic abilities, much like Ragnhild, that woman that brought us into the abyss.
Draconic. You mean like a dragon?
Yes, like a dragon. The only difference is, Russo doesn't know exactly how to become one, but she is part of their bloodline.
And he sort of scoffs and is quiet for a moment and sort of looks off and he says, honestly, I wouldn't believe it if I hadn't have seen her do that thing she does.
That's one thing that she can do that's part of their power, but transforming is completely lost on her.
Hmm. And that's what the Fastener dragon did.
Yes, that is her true form.
And he kind of shakes his head and he says, "We never would have stood a chance if we'd fought that dragon.
Now,
I mean,
about that dragon. It seems that dragons are very neutral in their stance. When I spoke to Ragnhild personally, she didn't care about the war. She only cared about one of the women who were healing some of the fasteners who came back injured.
she didn't care about the war.
No, she wouldn't have fought. She
What?
would have only fled with her partner.
Well, who was she so worried about?
I forget her name, but it was some woman who had a little bit of magic herself.
Another one, huh?" And he shakes his head and he says, "I guess magic's everywhere." It says it's hard to believe the way you can like live your whole life and never see anything like this. And then all of a sudden it's just there and it's everywhere. And then
You
he says,
perhaps might be magic as well, which is why I've invested so much in you so far.
and he laughs and he says, maybe. And I never would have believed things like what were in that pit existed if I hadn't laid eyes on them myself.
Think of it. You may not have the magic that Lily has. You may not have the magic that Russo has. But the magic that I have, nature magic, exists in all living things.
Hmm.
If you see this fire in my hand, and I show the flame once again,
Mm-hmm.
this is from the realm of fire. If you were to go to that realm alone, everything would be burning. You would only see the fires that you would see on this material plane. You would see them all burning. Same with water, same with earth. Each element is confined to its own, and it only comes into this material plane when it is needed. And that is what balance and harmony, that's where balance and harmony exists. Too much of anything can be bad.
Hmm. And he's sort of like looking thoughtfully at a leaf, and he says, "So to use magic, you just have to call it into the world?"
Yes, it requires a lot of practice. Fortunately for me, I was given it. This was more of a gift as opposed to a learned ability, but I know that people can learn it.
So I know we've been working on this for a little bit, but I really want to do something that shows I'm making some kind of progress. And he says, "Will you finally just tell me how you do what you do?"
You must rid yourself of all the turmoil,
And he says, like,
even if it's temporary.
he says, I know, and I've done all that, but like, what do you actually do?"
You have to think about things outside of your own person. You have to become one with those things. The problems I had in the abyss were very troublesome, and I may not ever forget. But in that moment, you're sitting down here and meditating. You feel the wind, you feel everything around you moving in unison. Think of those elemental planes. All those planes exist in perfect harmony. Without any of them, there couldn't be balance, and there couldn't be life.
Hmm. Reflecting on this, he sort of sighs frustratedly, and he plucks a leaf from one of the vines that he just watched you like grow out of the ground, and he's like focusing hard on the leaf.
Do not focus. Focus is what an archer does when he's aiming at his target. Focusing is what a monk does when he strikes. Focus leads the turmoil. Relaxation and calm leads to nature.
You're watching, and he's like trying to make himself relax, but he's like his eyes are like locked on this leaf as he's like willing this leaf to like grow.
I don't want you to look at that leaf.
He sort of like frustratedly sets it down and sits upright to face you.
I want you to think about that leaf instead. Form a mental image in your head. But life is not possible with one disembodied leaf. Life is possible with 1,000, a million. That same leaf exists on every tree, on every plant. It's part of a cycle that gives that plant life, gives that tree life.
As you're saying this, he's sort of like laying back and kind of just focusing on what you're saying. And as he's doing it, you see his face kind of relax, but his eyebrows are still sort of like there's a little bit of tension as he's still like kind of willing it. And as you watch, just a couple of plants at his side, a couple of small flowers spring up in growth, and then like age right through the blossom phase and wilt immediately.
Yeah.
As he sort of like overdoes it, and they just like spring up and then immediately go brown and turn gray. But not noticing what he did, he's sort of just like, I can't do it.
You're doing fine.
And he says, I guess.
I want you to think about that feeling. Did you feel anything just now? Feeling of warm water.
He shakes his head and he says, no, nothing like that. He says, I'm trying to just relax and see it all as just like something I can call or bring in to the world, but I don't really know how I'm supposed to do that other than to just will it to happen. So I guess that's what I'm doing. I'm just trying to like will it to happen. As he says this, another small flower like grows, it like shoots up out of the vine, growing immediately and wilting and dying again. But this happens kind of at his side and he doesn't catch it.
I want you to think about all the turmoil, but only for a moment. You are troubled somehow. What is it that worries you?
And he sort of says, well, I mean, there's not really anything that bothers me. And looking down, he sort of clenches his fist. And he says, I'm not strong enough. I'm weak. And as he says this, another flower at his side just like ages and wilts immediately. And he says, there's just not enough power. And as he says that, another flower wilts and dies immediately. He says, I don't know how I can compete with threats like the ones we just faced when all I have are these at my side.
You're thinking of it the wrong way. This magic is not about power. Maybe perhaps what Lily does, but not this. And is it all that worth it to crave power, to want to be able to destroy? You want the power to protect yourself, but at the same time, at what cost? This isn't power that can befall 1,000 soldiers. This is the power to make your own choices. to lead by example, and to protect and promote harmony.
Hmm.
When you say power, power is a destructive force. But it's a malevolent force nonetheless.
He says, but isn't power what preserved you and I? Isn't
Will
that
is
isn't
what
that what kept us alive?
the will to survive is what kept us alive. We did kill people in there, and we killed a lot in that abyss. We did do what was necessary to live. But is it necessary? Is the real question.
Hmm.
There are a million outcomes for what could have happened down there, and what didn't happen.
He says, I guess. And he shakes his head and he says, I just want to know I can take care of ourselves, you know, and that I'm strong enough to make sure everything's gonna be okay. At about this time, Thorvald, you hear like a doof 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 doof, and Avina comes running up the side, and he says, Thorvald, come quick. And she says,
I get up quickly. What's wrong?
It's Imran. I don't know what happened. Come with me.
Alright. Vinhold. We will do this later.
And he nods. He says, right. And he jumps to his feet, ready to see what's going on.
Yeah.
She leads you guys down this way towards her room over here. And throwing open the door, she points and she says, it's Imran. And looking inside, you see a purple dragonfly sort of flying
And
around.
I know what that is. It's a dagger. The obsidian knife.
And Avina says, I don't know what to do.
Where is the dagger? The obsidian knife.
And she points to where it's just sort of sitting on the bed right here.
And I pick it up.
Make me a charisma saving throw.
Oh Lord. 15.
A 15? Okay.
Yeah.
You feel sort of like a wave of magic wash over you. As you are shifted. Oh man, I'm having a hard time here. You are shifted into a small, adorable baby mushroom.
Oh God.
Which unfortunately, I do not have a picture for right now. But you just become a small lump of toadstool right here with a deep purple color to it.
Can I still pick up the dagger?
Avina panics and she says, what do we do? What do we do? And Vinhold's there, his eyes wide. And he says, I don't know. And he points to the dagger and he says, I think it's that thing. And she says, this, and she like reaches down and picks it up. And she says, what did it do? And at about this
can
time,
I move as a mushroom thing? Can I like do anything as a mushroom?
you can sort of just like, you can like sort of like ripple if you like.
I can't walk. Like what you said, a baby mushroom.
Yeah, I think before I made you a little myconid, like a baby myconid. So yeah, you have little arms and legs if you like.
Yeah, I walk up to
As
Avina.
soon as you start to move and she notices that this thing is like a living creature, she's just like, whoa! And she's gonna run out of the room here, dropping the dagger.
I touch the dagger.
Touching the dagger, can you roll me a charisma saving throw?
Alright. 13.
13. Alright. That is going to turn you into... multicolored bird, which I am having a really hard time finding. Good lord.
I touch the dagger again with my beak.
You touch the dagger again. Okay, roll me a charisma saving throw.
17.
17. You don't shift into anything else this time.
So remain a bird.
After a few seconds of this dragonfly sort of buzzing around Avina here, it suddenly like disappears, and Imran sort of like falls onto the deck.
Oh, so it's timed. You know, just can't just like.
And she sort of lands prone and
Oh.
like smacks her head against the wood, and she gets up like ow, like rubbing her forehead. And Venhold, looking at Imran, who just like popped out of the air, like turns his head and looks over at this large bird that's sort of just like standing in place on the ground.
I like look at Van Hold and just shake my beak back like side to side, like.
And he says, Thorvald, is that you?
Shake my head up and down.
After a few moments of y'all sort of like sitting there like that, you sort of like vanish, and you reappear right here. Venhold says, whoa, are you okay?
I'm all right. That was a bit of a. It must be Lily's work that's got into the hands of Avina.
And he says, is it that thing there? And he kind of points at the thing on the ground, the dagger.
It seems to turn people into different creatures when they touch it, except for Avina.
Well, we'd better
At least
not
no
touch
one
it
will
then.
be stealing our knife.
And he says, yeah, I guess that's true. If we ever come in here and there's like an animal flying around, we'll know something's up.
I grab like, is there like 2 pieces of wood or something?
There's like pillows on the bed.
I take 2 pillows and grab the dagger with the pillows.
The pillows, okay.
Yeah.
You're all right. The dagger sort of like gently gets lifted up off the ground. Looking at the dagger, you see the 4-tailed scorpion embedded in amber at the base of the hilt, which wasn't there before.
Something has changed about this knife. I wonder if. I just I tuck it into the pillowcase again and just go where Avina went.
Yeah, something you might want to ask Leonte about. Yeah. Out here, Avina's sort of crouching over Amarin, making sure Amarin's okay, as she's sort of rubbing her forehead. She says, what
Avina.
happened? She turns her head to look at you.
That's dagger. What did Lily do to it exactly?
And she sort of looks at Emmerin, and she looks over at Venhold and kind of like gives you a look, like kind of shakes her head, like, you know, like I really can't talk about this here. She's like, it wasn't Lily, ...
Yes, I know who it was, but I was wondering if that was the case.
Well, I mean, as far as I know, it never did that before.
And so I can't touch it and no one else except for you.
I know, Miss Lily, saying the name very carefully, has sort of messed with it a couple of times. But she never really told me anything about it. Make me a perception check.
18.
As she's talking, you
Here they
notice.
are. Oh.
You notice the earlobes at the base of Avina's ears are just ever so slightly more angular than normal.
Are you fucking joking? like, like, like as if her ears are starting to point.
I mean, they're not sharp like Leonte's ears are, but there's just something ever so slightly different about her.
Like, Avina, can I talk to you in private?
Looking at Imran, who's still sort of rubbing the back of her head, she says, like, yeah, of course.
It'll be quick.
She says, I'll be right back. And the two of you walk past Venhold over here. He's just like, everything's okay, right?
Yes. So just private stuff between villagers. I don't know.
Villagers. And he's like, yeah, of course. And you guys head in and kind of walks over here to check on Imran.
So like, oh yeah, actually, like, did you know that that dagger was going to do that?
And she shook her head. She says, no. I mean, I know it's been a little different. And she kind of points to the hilt. She says, like, it wasn't like that before. But, ever since that thing that Leonte talks to, put the amber that, the gypsy lady gave me into this dagger, it's been like that.
Do you notice anything different about your appearance?
She sort of shakes her head and she says, not really, why?
Your ears look different.
And she says, they do? And she reaches up and she like touches her earlobes and she's kind of like turning her head. She's like, I can't see them.
They look closer to elf ears than human ears.
And as you say this, she's like touching the bottoms and she kind of feels up around the back of her ears. But the tops of her ears are still rounded and she's like, I don't feel any different. But looking at them now, Thorvald, the bottom of her earlobes are definitely a little more pointed. They're like ever so slightly longer.
Did Diliani give her a gift? Maybe she made her magic because she didn't have any. So, in order to do that, she made her an elf.
You're not too sure.
Oh yeah, I say, Vinhold has seen Leonte in her true form.
And she says, he has? When?
When we went down into the abyss.
She says, oh. So, does he know about that thing too? The thing she talks to?
No, he doesn't. I imagine if she did, or if he did, she would be in very much trouble.
Do I still have to call her Lily?
I think Vinhold already knows that her name is Leonte.
I don't know if Venhold
There's
knows
another
that
truth.
yet.
I mean, it wouldn't do any damage if he knew the name. If he knew about the Diliani, it would do damage.
I mean, at this point, he knows that she's a witch. He knows that she can change her appearance and was likely one of the people who's causing a lot of trouble. Although there have been reports that Leonte was able to change her appearance ever since the caravan fight, where she did it multiple times in front of people.
Well, Mazoon also.
Yeah, Mazoon too. Venhold has seen her and Mazoon both do that, so he knows it's something witches can do.
Kind of crazy that he hasn't shown up yet. Okay. Well, that's it. Like, that's all I have to say to her. I mean,
Okay.
I just tell her, like, be more careful with that dagger.
And she's like, yeah, of course. And she takes the dagger and sort of like puts it in like a little trunk. She's like, I'm sorry.
It's alright. I'll be going back to Vinholt now.
She says, yeah, of course.
And I leave and go back to Vinholt.
Okay. Out here, Venhold, as you approach, sort of turns as you're walking up, and he says, "She seems to be okay, other than
She'll be,
a knock
she'll
on
be,
the head. Yeah, she doesn't seem to have suffered anything."
are you ready to continue?
And he says, "Yeah, we can get back to that." And looking down at Imran, he says, "I guess I'll be catching you later. Go see what your friend's up to." And she sort of scurries off.
No, we'll worry.
Alright, so you guys are returning back up to the top. To this little patch that you've created.
Alright, so...
As you guys are sort of walking underneath, you look up and you see Rorqual just sort of gazing down at y'all as he sits comfortably up in the crow's nest.
Yeah, he's just chilling.
Yeah, Rorqual doesn't seem to have taken the seasickness at all. He's doing A-okay.
Well, as Thorvald? As Thorvald doesn't... I don't think Thorvald suffered any, like, effects.
No, Thorvald grew up on the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, Thorvald's all good. As Vinholm comes over, he looks down at some of the dead little flowers and he says, "Have those always been there?"
No, Vinholt. Those are yours.
He scoffs and he says, "Yeah, right, I didn't do that."
Let's continue.
And he says, "Right," and he sort of sits down and pays it no mind.
Now, tell me, what would you do if you had the power that... Oh, no. If you had the abilities that I did, what would you do with them?
I guess if I was as strong as you are, I would, I suppose, protect the things I love from threats that can't be handled by normal people.
What do you love?
He sort of pauses for a second. And you see him think long and hard. And then he kind of shakes his head and he says, "I don't really know. I loved my father, but I can't say I'm in love with the business we run. But, I mean, I'm here now, so I'm not even really doing that anymore." And he sort of
Did
shakes
you
his
know your
head,
father? He taught you everything?
and he nods and he says, "Everything I know." You see kind of a sad expression fall over his face as he suddenly goes quiet, thinking of his father, who he lost about a month or so ago.
Yeah.
He says,
It
"Yeah."
is not about how he died. It's about how he lived.
And he shakes his head and he says, it's a little about how he died." And you see the anger in his eyes, and he says, "They made a spectacle of him. They hung him up for everybody to see.
Who hung him up?
The fasteners. And as he says that, you can see like the hatred like in his voice as he sort of blames the Fasteners as a whole, as a group. And he says they fought against us in everything that we did to try and make the city better. And they even killed my father. And to think in the very end that we ended up allying with them. And then he looks at you and he says, was it all just a waste then? What did he really die for? A temporary war? What sort of death is that for a man like my father?
He died protecting the city. He died for his city. Men have died in wars over countless ages.
And he shakes his head and he says he was killed by his city, by the people that live in it and continue to live in it to this day. And he says it just makes me sick. And you see him like clench his fists. He's very restless, and he's like, I guess I never got what I needed. I never found out who the people were that killed him. It just
The
bothers
person who
me.
killed him is dead.
And he says, how could you know that?
Because I killed him.
Make me a persuasion check. At advantage.
19.
19. Natural 20 on insight.
Oh my god, for real.
Venhold sits in stunned silence, and he says, what? What are you saying? How
Do you
could you
see
have
the
been the one
shield?
that killed him? And he
You
says,
see the shield on my back?
yes, it's a Bjark's shield.
Yeah. It belonged to a man named Bjark. During the caravan attack, there were 3 people who attacked it. One of them was a man who boasted about killing your father. His name was Bjark. This was the only remaining thing of Bjark that I could get. His body was disposed of some way, perhaps sent to Yarnberg.
Oh,
But
says
nobody.
Venhold, a moment of relief, as relief visibly crosses over his face, and he says, I thought you meant, like, you yourself had killed them, not that you had killed the man who killed him personally.
Wait, what?
So basically, when you said, I killed him, that could be taken 2 ways. Either that you yourself had killed him, or that the person that had killed his father had been killed by you.
Oh, yeah, I killed the person who killed his father.
Yeah, and so Venhold, thinking for a moment that you were saying that you yourself had killed them, was like, well, what are you talking about? And as you say this, Venhold, thinking critically, says, how did they know Bjark was the one to kill my father?
He boasted about it. He taunted us with it. In the caravan attack, he spoke specifically of being tasked with doing it.
You see the disgust on his face. He says, I wish I could have done it myself.
I'm sorry, Vinhol. And I...
You do what?
No, that's it. That's all I said. Just apologize.
Oh, okay. Just like, I'm sorry this happened to you. Okay. Yeah, Venhold's just like, well... And he sighs a heavy sigh, and he's like, I believe you. I guess that's just another thing that I have to let go of. That's just going to go unresolved. And then he shakes his head and he says, I couldn't even do that myself. But looking at you, he says, it makes me feel good though, knowing that at least you were the one to do the job. How did he die?
I drove a spear straight through his heart.
Roll me a deception check.
15. So
15. He says, good, then he got what he deserved. And then looking out over this endless sea, he says, so what do I do with myself now? I guess I'll just become a witch and live like a gypsy.
being a witch isn't so bad. In fact, you'll come to realize that perhaps witch is too harsh of a term to be used for every single magic person.
He says,
You
well,
yourself probably has magic, or most likely.
I'm trying, but I mean I haven't really seen any progress yet. And
I think you've made excellent progress.
he sort of smiles at you and he's like, I really appreciate that. He says, they say that Boletaria's got witches that work for the crown, but we never really see anybody like that down here. I don't know that
I
they would
worry
really
for
fit in.
Boletaria.
He says, yeah, me too. If there's more Voltas in that abyss over in Boletaria, then there's nothing good waiting for us.
I will give you the ability to protect yourself and those you truly care about. I have not given up on you, and I never will. I have taken you as my full student.
Uh, he sort of smiles and he says, it's been a while since I've been a student. I have to warn you, I was never the scholarly type.
Oh, neither was I.
Okay, was there anything more you wanted to do with this interaction?
Try and get him to, like,
Get magic out of him?
yeah.
As the two of you guys continue, what you notice is that he can't really do it with his eyes open. The only time he ever seems to be able to produce anything, it is while he's focusing deeply. But whenever he does grow something, it's almost like he's forcing it to grow, and he overdoes it, and the plant just instantly ages to the point of wilting and dying.
Alright, say that again.
So, whenever he is able to produce something, it's almost like he's forcing it to grow, and he overdoes it, and the plant immediately wilts to the point of dying. But by the time you guys finish your second session, because y'all had time for like 2 really long, like full day of teaching sessions,
Yeah.
he's at the point now where he is producing like small flowers and stuff, but he's overdoing it. He doesn't seem to have any control over it.
So they just all pop up and then die immediately.
Yeah, they sort of like burst into life and age to death. And by the time y'all finish your session today, he does notice like he is now surrounded by a small ring of like dead, wilted plants.
Do you believe me now?
And he says, I really did this?
Yes, well, not quite. They die every time they shoot up. But
he
you are learning.
He turns excitedly to you and he says, but it was me? I made these?
Yes, you did.
And then looking back at the flowers, with amazement in his eyes, he says, maybe I really can do this. Maybe I really can take this power. I didn't think it was possible. And he's sort of staring at the dead plants in disbelief. It's actually going to kind of look like this a little bit. He doesn't have like the full-on vines, but he's got like little dead black flowers. Actually, here, let me find some dead flowers for you. It's humongous. Oh, they all look okay. Well, but anyways, there's just like dead flowers here. There we go. Just make it red with blood. And he was just kind of sitting there in the middle of them. Okay. Did you have any personal projects that?
Yeah, I was gonna work on steel working.
Okay. Uh,
Where is the mountain?
the mountain is in like the center of the continent that you're currently on.
Oh, so it's like pretty far. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. It is like the peak center of the mountain. So these are all little dead flowers that sort of formed while he was doing his thing. Over the next few days, you guys continue your journey, and we will pick up probably from the scene with Floki the cook, because I know Olivier was kind of curious about that whole situation.
Yeah.
At some point, like a couple nights later, while you are in your room, there's a knock on your door as Fritjof appears. And he
Hello, Fred.
and as soon as he sees you, he kind of does this shady, like, hey, like, I've got some dirt. He said,
All right, let me hear it.
looking around your room, he's like, well, it's,
All right, come in.
there's always people listening. Yeah, and he comes in and he sort of looks around at all the flowers
Like
and the
as like
vines.
a little as a flavor, I like a gesture towards the door, and like vines like grow over the frame to like kind of lock it.
And he says, don't you have a bed in here?
This is my bed.
And he's like, how can any of this even grow aboard a ship?
Easy, and I like grow a flower in the palm of my hand.
He's just like, whoa, that's really weird. And he says, look, I'm getting distracted. Here's what you need to know. There seems to be some sort of weird plot going aboard the ship. Some people owe some other people money, and I think they might try and get rid of the guy.
Who? Who are they trying to get rid of?
I didn't quite hear. Some sort of gambling debt.
Who has gambling debt?
My wager is it's one of the guys that tends to sit at the table up there, because you know how they all sort of get together each night and play dice. I can't exactly say who though. I'm just not sure.
Alright, just like, thank you, Fritjof, and I give him 50 gold.
He says, yes. He taking it, he puts it in to the folds of his cloak, and he says, if I find anything more, I'll let you know. I always got my ears to the door.
Thank you.
And gives you a nod and steps out and dashes away like a thief.
I guess it's time to go to the gambler's den.
The gambler's den. Okay.
Or the gambler's area.
So later on in the evening, a lot of these guys are kind of out doing their thing. The crew members, Some of them are gambling out here. Some of them are sort of eating dinner in here where Floki's hanging out. A lot of these guys are just kind of drinking, doing their thing. When you come down, they all kind of look at you, but they don't say much. You're just kind of like the owner of the ship, you know? They don't really deal with you. You'd be standing about here-ish as you come up from below.
I sit down at one of the tables with people on it, who are gambling.
Okay. You sit down here, and these three guys each kind of look at you as you sit down. And they're like, you're one of the ship owners. You trying to catch a game?
Sure, why not? I've never played this before.
He says, it's easy. It's just a matter of throwing dice. With a certain technique, of course, and one of the guys sort of like rolls his fingers, and the dice kind of like goes a certain way, and he's like, he tosses it on the table, and it lands precisely on a 6. And he's like, it never hurts to have the right techniques, but it is a matter of skill, certainly not luck.
I guess I'll play.
Okay, care to try your hand?
Certainly.
Go ahead and what are you betting?
5 gold.
5 gold. So you put 5 gold on the table, and the other sailors all kind of look at each other, and they look back at you. And one of them says, "You're that naturey guy, right? And likes plants and monkeys and such."
Yeah, I let a little vine slip out from my arm. That's me.
They say like, "Oh, okay. It's a neat little trick you've got there." As you guys prepare to roll your dice, make me a perception check.
Alright. Ooh, 22.
Okay, you got a 10. You notice as they're about to roll the dice that as the guy's sort of like shaking his hand, he quickly rolls his fingers in like a certain way that looks very intentional. But it was just a very slight thing, and you just happen to catch it, that he's rolling this die in his palm, like with his fingers, before tossing it onto the table.
Have I never seen people roll dice before?
You have seen people roll dice before, but you notice that this guy is doing... he's not just tossing it. He seems to be rolling it in his fingers in a certain way.
What's that trick that you're doing?
And he says, "Whoa, what are you talking about?"
With your fingers. In your palm.
And he says this, and he sort of shakes his hand, like, casually tossing the dice about inside.
I'm gonna try to mimic what he just did.
Okay, make me...
Performance?
sleight of hand.
Let's see. I don't even know what that is. A dexterity, I know, but I
Dexterity,
just
yeah.
don't know what a mine. I gotta look on the character sheet for this. And I gotta subtract 55. Or 50 gold. I don't know if I've lost this shit already.
So you're trying to imitate a sleight of hand technique.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, sleight of hand isn't bad, but it's not good either. Okay. 15.
15. Not bad actually. You go ahead and make your D100 roll at advantage.
67.
Okay. They got a 47 and a 42. Impressed, all the sailors watch as you like roll the fingers in the same way and toss it on the table, and the dice like land on like a high number. And this guy here begins roaring with laughter Uh, and this one here begins hooting and slamming his hand on the table, while this guy over here like throws his hands up in disbelief. And these two guys say, "Take your gold, friend. You've definitely earned it."
Oh, thank you.
And they say, "I haven't seen anyone outplay Marlin like that in years."
Hmm.
And this guy sort of suspiciously like puts his elbow on the table and peers across at you, and he says, "Where's a nature lover like that, like yourself, looking you up and down with like your mantle, learn to throw dice like that?" And he says, "Are you hustling me?"
What's hustling?
And he sort of looks at each other, and these other two guys laugh even harder, and they're like, "Go ahead, just tell him." And he's like, "Hustling, you you playing me for a fool?"
No, I literally just learned how to do this just now by watching that guy's hand.
You kind of have the attention of these guys over here who are kind of like looking over at all the laughter. And this guy here sort of like waves them over, and they're like, "Hey, come get a look at this." And these three guys come over, and they say, "This guy just outtossed Marlin." And these three guys with interest sort of peer in. And this guy says, "Go on, do your trick again."
All right. I do the trick again, or
You go
15 again.
15 again. Okay. Uh, again, you like sort of perfectly do it, and as you're kind of rolling your fingers, these three sailors are like, that's the technique. He's doing it." And then you toss your dice, and they sort of perfectly land on like a high number. And this guy to your side looks over and he says, "You really just learned to do that just now?"
Yeah, it doesn't look that hard.
Make me a persuasion check at advantage.
All right. 19.
19. At this, the sailor like cracks up and slaps you on the back, and he says, "I like you. What's your name?"
Thorvald.
And he says, "Thorvald, my name is Jordan." And here, I'm gonna make sure you can see these names. And he looks over and he says, "This here's Marco. And that guy over there is Marlin."
Nice to meet you all. I take it you're part of Vinhold's crew.
And he says, "Aye, that we are. And a hearty crew that we are."
So do you gamble often?
And he says, "Well, I mostly just keep company with the boys here, but Marlin there, he really enjoys what he does. And he makes a fine amount of gold off of it, usually."
Hmm.
These three guys at this point are going to kind of return to their table, impressed that the ship owner was able to pull off a trick like that. And he says, what brings you to the crew's quarters? Are you just here for a meal? Or did you just come to show off your dice throwing skills?"
I come with concerns, actually.
"Concerns?" He says, "Well, what's got someone like you worried?"
I heard a rumor that someone's in debt. A lot of it.
At this, Jordan and Marco sort of look at each other, and they look over at Marlin, and the three of them are frowning. And he says, "Well, yeah, Marlin's got a spot of debt here, but what about it?"
I'm willing to pay it off. In full.
"In full? Why would you pay off Marlin's debt?" And Marlin sort of leans forward and he says, "Yeah, what would you do that for?"
Because I don't want anything to happen to people. This man can pay his debt back. I imagine what could happen.
They all sort of look at each other, and he says, "What sort of thing might happen?"
I don't know. I've seen some things in the tits of Uptown before. For people who don't pay debts. And I'm not saying I'd be the one to do it, but I am offering a payoff, and I will not require anything in return.
They
I
all sort
want
of
peace on my ship.
smile, and they're like, "Huh? Someone like you spent time in the tits?" And they say, "Well, as far as we know, nobody's out to get him. The only one that Marlon owes any money to is Floki. And
I
that
see.
bastard's not going to be causing any trouble anytime soon."
Well, you insist. I'll go about my business.
And Marlon holds up a finger and says, "Wait. Would you really be interested in paying off that debt, though?" Jordan and Marco just kind of shake their heads.
Yes, but I will charge a small price, and that price is that you never gamble again. And if I catch you gambling, you're off the ship. I'll have Vinod send you off himself.
Kind of thinks for a moment and he frowns. He says, I don't know if I could just not gamble." And he says, "Well, what would you have me do? All this time I spend on this ship. Gambling's all we sailors ever do."
You have a point. I just don't want anything to happen on my ship, if you know what I mean.
Make me a persuasion check.
17.
As they all sort of look at you, Jordan says, "You're serious, aren't you?" And Marco leans in and he says, "What makes you think anything's going to happen?"
It's not what I think is going to happen. It's what has happened in the past, and I don't want it happening around me. That cook, that chef is a shady character. I would not trust him.
And they say, "Pfft, Floki. What's Floki gonna do?" But they say, "Your concern is noted. If you think that there might really be a problem, by all means, I invite you to pay off this debt. Make me an insight check."
Alright. Ah, shit, that's 6.
6. Okay. He seems really genuine.
Hmm.
And he says, "If you think it'll sort of save any trouble from happening, by all means, like, please, I invite you to do us all a favor and pay this debt off for me." What's on your mind?
Like, it sucks because Olivier's already, like, busting that dude's chops as we speak, so it's like...
She's like searching him, but she's
Can
not
I go
going.
back? Can I go back to that room? Or should I wait for her?
You can go to the room, but at this point, Floki's like cooking food for the others.
Oh, so he's not being shaken down?
Not anymore. That was like before you did your thing with Vinhold and all that.
Alright.
But
I'll go to Floki then.
after patting Floki down, she wasn't able to find uh, any red vials of liquid on him.
Yeah, but I know this information now. I'm gonna resolve it. Like, that's why, like, some people are planning on taking him out because he owes debt.
Okay. So Floki's currently in that room. There's a bunch of people eating as well. And they're all sort of talking and doing things while he's, cutting up fish and such.
Alright, so before I go in, is there like a knife somewhere I can grab?
Yeah. There's there's like old dishes on the table.
I just grab a
There's an
knife and
old
pull
plate
it.
of food with a fork and a knife.
I take a knife and I take one of my gold coins out and scribe an X across both sides and put it back in. Or put
On
it in my
on the coin or the
the
knife?
coin. The coin.
So you put an X on both sides?
Yeah, both sides of the coin and then put it in my pocket.
Okay. The others sort of watch with interest as you do this.
Oh shit. I meant do this out of shit. Oh well, fuck it, they saw.
and
It's not like they'll know what I'm doing.
so Marlon's like, so are you gonna help me out by chance?
I'll think about it. I have something else I need to do.
Hmm. All right. Well, it's good meeting you, Hustler. And they sort of nod
Okay.
at you, and you're just like, I don't know what the fuck a Hustler is.
Yeah, that is okay. So I go to the Floki.
Okay. As you approach this room, there's loud, raucous laughter sort of coming from the interior. And looking through the little window, you see Floki like is talking, and he's engaged with these other guys here, and they're all sort of talking and eating and telling stories.
Say hello, Floki.
Uh, as you step in, all the laughter sort of dies down. And looking at you, Floki says, "Oh, it's you again. Well, anything I can do for you?"
I have some questions. May I speak with you in private?
Floki sort of looks at the others, and he says, "He's the boss, boys. Better scram." And the other guys all sort of stand up and walk out. And they're just gonna find other places to be. And as you step inside, Thorvald, Floki looks at you and he says, "Look, the lady already patted me down to my skivvies. I got nothing for you. You
I understand that, but I don't also know that someone owes you an incredible sum of gold.
make me an insight check."
Uh, 17.
You see him grow visibly nervous, and Floki says, "Who told you that?"
I heard the rumors. People don't exactly keep their mouths shut aboard this ship.
Yeah, apparently not. Uh, yeah, so what? Maybe
I'm
that
willing
little
to
Marlin
pay off. How much debt does this person owe?
So yeah, that little Marlin rat, well, he owes me about 50 gold.
Consider it paid off. I don't want you doing anything to that man. Do you hear me?
Doing anything? I wasn't gonna do anything to him. What gave you that idea?
You can drop the act now. That red vial that Olivier saw was poison.
And he says, "I don't know what you're talking about. Look, she thinks she saw something, and I can't change her mind on that. But I can't just produce something I don't have. And where's this money gonna come from? 50 gold doesn't just drop out of the sky."
Yes, it does. And I pull out gold.
You pull out 50 gold?
Yeah, I make sure the coin's in that batch too. That crossed coin.
And as you throw the gold down on the table, his eyes go wide, and he's like, "Wow, 50 gold, huh? Yeah, that's exactly what I was owed. Looks like it was all here after all." Yeah.
Listen to me. I look him straight in the eyes. Nothing will happen to that man.
And he says, "Look, nothing was gonna happen, but I appreciate you paying off his debt."
Well, he is now my property, and my property will not be damaged in any way.
Your
In
property.
fact, I don't want you even gambling with him anymore. Anything he offers, even if he has gold,
Yeah,
don't deal with him. And
yeah.
don't tell him why.
Don't tell him why. Oh,
You
what?
will
Like
not
you
gamble
want
with
me
him.
to keep all this a secret?
Yes. All he will know is his debt is no longer. His debt is paid.
Well, if you tell him his debt's paid, it's not gonna be a secret, right?
Okay, hold on. So I'm trying to essentially tell him, like, don't gamble with him anymore because this dude's irresponsible as fuck.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And, like,
And,
that's basically what I'm trying to tell him.
and you're paying him 50 gold. So you're saying just
Yeah.
don't gamble with Marlin. You're not saying don't gamble
Yeah.
at all.
Don't gamble with Marlin.
And Floki's like, yeah, sure thing. Just won't gamble with Marlin anymore. But yeah, I appreciate you coming this way and throwing all this money at me. It's nice to be loved, you know? Especially with all the work I put in making all this food for you guys. It's good to be appreciated. With that,
I'm
he
sorry
takes
that
another
Miss.
big swig from the bottle.
I'm sorry that Miss Rousseau shook you down like that.
Oh yeah, it was very stressful. She gave me a pretty hard time, but yeah, you know, not to worry. No, nothing was harmed, you know, and this really makes up for it.
Can I roll insight on him, like to see if, because I don't know, he's like I just want to see if like that's why like if he really had the poison or if he's lying about something.
So what are you trying to detect with your insight roll right now?
See if he's like his everything he's told me so far. To see if he's lying about any of it.
Okay, all right, go ahead and make me an insight roll.
Yeah, 7. All right, that was fun.
With a 7, you can tell that this guy Floki is a rat, and he's he's definitely playing up like the trauma he went through with Olivier. And there's just something about this guy. You don't like him, but you're pretty sure everything he's told you so far has basically been the truth from his perspective. He's just not
Except
somebody
for
you
the
like.
poison, pretty much.
Probably. It seems like he's been pretty truthful about just about everything he's said so far. Actually, hang on. Let me leave this to the dice. What'd you roll?
7.
And that's your total?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, it seems like he's been pretty truthful with everything he's told you so far.
Should I still tell Venhold about it? I might. Okay, so I make sure to have that marked coin in with the gold that I gave him.
Yeah. His grubby, dirty hands sort of like snatch up the bag, and he's like, "Well, it's been awfully good talking to you, and I really appreciate you doing this for me. But as you can see, I've got a lot of work here, lots of things to get done, lots of cooking to be cooked for all of these people around here. Um, is there anything else that you need from me?"
No, that'll be going.
Oh, good. And if you see that lady again, please tell her she can just order food through the crewman.
All right, will do.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks again.
All right, I will see you later.
As you step out, you catch Floki eyeing the fat bag of gold greedily.
I go to Venhold.
Okay. Venhold is once again in his room, which will be over here. you knock on the door, and you hear Venhold call from inside, "Come in." And as you do so, you see him sitting with his feet propped up on the table. And there's a small wilted leaf laying on the table as well.
And, yeah, he's just admiring his work.
He says, "Back so soon?"
Yes, it kind of resolved the conflict amongst your sailors.
Conflict? What conflict?
So there's a gambling issue where Marlin owed a lot of money to Floki. But backtracking a little bit more, the other night, Olivier noticed a vial of red liquid on Floki when she was gambling with him.
Red
And she asked
liquid?
about it. Yes, as if it was poison, because when she asked him to reproduce it, instead of producing the liquid, he produced a bunch of dry red spices, and he refused to show the other vial.
She's positive it wasn't wine?
He wouldn't show her. If it was wine, why would he hide it from her?
That's a good point.
But I paid off Marlin's debt that he owed to Floki.
You
Just
paid
to be
off his
safe.
debt. You see Venhold being a rogue, he's like, "You paid off that debt for him? Why?"
Because I don't want people dying on my ship for stupid reasons. Gold is not worth it.
And he shakes his head and he says, "Floki's an idiot, but surely he wouldn't try and kill Marlin. How much money was it anyway?"
It was 50 gold, and you don't have to worry about
50
it.
gold? He slams his hands down on the table and stands up. And he says, "Marlin doesn't have 50 gold. Who told you it was 50 gold?"
Shit, who, was it Marlin?
Thinking back, you can't quite recall who it was that told you 50 gold was the amount owed. Stepping past you, Venhold says to you, "Come with me.
Alright.
Let's get to the bottom of this." And Venhold comes over to this table and addresses the crew. And they're all sort of sitting casually talking to one another. And once they see Venhold, they all sort of straighten up. And Marlin says, "Yes, sir. What can we do for you?" And Venhold, sort of like
God damn it.
putting a hand on the table, leans forward and he says, "Marlin, how much gold do you owe Floki the cook?" And Marlin kind of gulps and looks at Jordan and Marco, and he looks back at Venhold. He says, "Well, maybe like 23 gold." And Venhold looks back at you, and he says, "Did Floki tell you that it was 50 gold that was owed to him?" And Marco and Jordan both sort of like say, "Well, it was never 50 gold."
Wait, did... Yeah, it must have been Floki then who told me that.
It was Floki that told you that.
Yeah, I tell Venhold, yes, that's what Floki told me.
And Venhold, grumbling, "That rat bastard," just sort of steps over here and starts making his way towards the kitchen as you follow. And as you guys cross over, a bunch of the crewmen all sort of curiously gather to watch. And
Oh God.
as he's walking down the hallway, Venhold goes, "Floki, get out here!" And some of these doors kind of start to open as the crewmen curiously gather. Floki sort of steps out, and he sort of like nervously looks at Venhold and then over at you. And Venhold, looking sternly at Floki, who looks visibly nervous. Venhold looks at Floki and he says, "Did you accept 50 gold from this man?" And Floki kind of gulps and he says, give or take a few. Why would you say that? And Vinhold says, why would you have accepted money from this man? And Floki kind of gulps and he's like, well, yeah, you see, he was kind enough to pay off Marlon's debt with interest. A reasonable amount of interest, of course. And Vinhold looks over at you, and he says, "Interest?" Question mark.
He said 50, and I gave him 50.
Vinhold holds out his hand, and he says, I will cover the cost of this. You are my crew and my responsibility. But in the meantime, you fork that gold over to me right now." And Floki, grumbling, sort of walks inside. And as he comes back out with a fat sack of gold in his hand, all the crewmen begin like, woo, like cheering. And grumbling, he hands Vinhold like a leather pouch, who like turns and hands you 50 gold back to you, Thorvald. And humiliated, Vinhold tells him, just like, get back to work. And Floki, disgruntled, goes back into the kitchen. And looking around at everybody, Vinhold says, "That goes for all of you dirty bastards. Get back to whatever it is you were doing." And the crewmen, all grinning, sort of close the doors and go back to their business.
That'll teach him. Say,
looking at you, Vinhold says, "Don't trust
I kinda
anything
smirk.
any of these people tell you. They're all miserable heathens."
I smirk, and I was like, yes, but as long as no one turns up dead, I'll be alright.
He says, "I'm sure nobody around here is going to be killing anybody else, but I'll look into it."
Thank you, Vinhold.
He says, it's the least I can do. Let me know if anybody manages to get any money out of you while you're on this trip."
Nod at him.
Yeah, shaking his head, he's gonna kind of walk off, grumbling, back to his room. Make me an insight check.
Alright. 13.
13. It occurs to you that this still doesn't resolve the situation of Olivier claiming to see a suspicious vial in Floki's possession.
Oh, yeah. I chase off down the hallway towards Vinhold. Vinhold.
Yeah?
There's something else that I didn't completely tell you.
And turning to face you, he sort of smiles and he's like, "What is it now?"
That vial that I saw.
And he says, "Oh, the one you say is in Floki's possession."
Yes.
He says, "Well, we can't do anything about it now. We can try searching his stuff later on. But there's too many people around right now to discreetly get that. I'll look into it, though. It's my crew. It'd be my responsibility if anything happened."
Alright. Trust you.
And he says, Don't worry.
I don't think Miss Rousseau would lie about that sort of thing. She's only looking out for everybody.
And he says, "Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure it's something. It's probably just a misunderstanding. Roll me an insight check."
Nat 20.
Nat 20. While he's saying it, You can tell Vinhold is trying to calm you down because he's like, it's Thorvald. Like, I know Thorvald doesn't really get these things. But deep down, like, there is a part of him that is taking a threat of poison aboard his vessel very, very seriously.
Alright. Okay. So he understands the situation.
Yeah,
Got it.
he's basically trying to, like, he's saying it's like not a big deal, it's less than it is. But no, he's very serious.
It's fucking poison! Freak out!
Oh yeah, dude, a mutiny like in the middle of nowhere like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Vinhold is now involved in this, and he will be looking into the situation as well.
Well, he knows whose possession it would be in.
Mm-hmm.
The fucking cook. The guy cooking all the food is the guy with the poison. That should be, like,
That
fucking
should be
alarming.
alarming. Yeah, yeah. 23 gold. That
Thorvald's not gonna eat on this boat ever.
just not eat. Yeah.
Or he's gonna keep his food in his room.
You should get yourself some seeds and just keep a bunch of seeds on you in case you ever need to grow a tree somewhere.
Yeah.
Or just like grow food. Go ahead and turn our music back on.
Oh yeah, steel working.
Oh yeah. So you head back up to the top. Looking about yourself, you see the small portable forge that you guys had engineered with this like collapsible oven that basically works as your smelter. What was it you were working on exactly? You had 7 long rests, you spent 5 creating this portable forge. Which, by the way, let me help you with what that actually does for you. And this is bound to change as I invested in a book that covers basically strongholds and benefits like that. But I liked what I saw. It'll be giving you basically anything you make at this forge will be considered like tier 1 a tier 1, what's the word for it? Basically just like a place where you can work. Here we go, a smithy.
Yeah.
Can I copy and paste this? Okay. Basically what it is for 2 days worth of effort and half its listed price, any item on the armor or weapons tables in the player's handbook can be made by you after completing a DC 10 Smith's Tools check.
I'll be sticking to making armor,
Mm-hmm.
not weapons.
In addition to that, certain items off of the adventuring gear and tools tables can be created in a similar fashion. And if you teach somebody how to smith like you do, you can have them work on it, but it will take them a little longer.
Yeah, what was I working on?
The last thing I remember you working on, I think, were greaves, as far as your steel work goes.
Yeah, I was working on greaves.
I think we had said that because you chose to... Yeah, it'd be a garden. Because you chose that, like, you don't want any furniture in your room, and you are growing it everything, I was going to treat your room like a garden.
Yeah, Druid's Grove.
Yeah. So what that does is it contains an assortment of herbs and grown vegetables. Each 7 days, the garden provides enough ingredients to make 4 potions off of the following list. And I will probably nerf that to no, it's a whole week. That's fine, yeah. But I may adjust this list because there's some really strong stuff on this list. And I'll give you a list of what this does. But basically, you will be able to make stuff every week as long as you are residing within that room.
So I can just grow like vegetables and shit?
Yeah, in fact, make simple items. Let me just copy and paste it for you.
Relax, tomato. Shut the fuck up, zucchini.
Okay. So here's what you can make. You can pick 4 of those things off of the list, and then you have to brew it with an alchemist supplies check.
Okay.
A failure destroys the gathered herbs used to brew that particular potion until they regrow after 7 days. So you have a shot at making 4 of anything off that list. Or just 4 different things. It can be different choices, or 2 of this, anything like that. But you'll have to roll alchemists for that. And I don't think you're proficient in those tools, are you?
No, I'm not
You took
proficient.
the poisoner's kit, and you have the herbalism kit, right?
Yeah, I don't have alchemist's tools.
The herbalism kit, the way I'm going to treat herbalism kits from now on, is that will be what you use to gather. It's kind of getting upgraded from like herbalism kit to forager's kit. So if you want something off of like a monster, and it's like something from the monster's body, how well you're able to extract that will be based on your herbalism / forager's kit.
Yeah.
So if you want to start making things with alchemical tools, you can do that. You'd be able to buy a set of those from Egard the Apothecary, who you guys happen to have brought along with you. But since you're not proficient in those, you would basically just be rolling like flat wisdom or knowledge. I think for alchemical tools, yeah, they're knowledge kit, so yeah, wisdom or knowledge. But you may be able to talk to her about that if you want to learn a thing or two about alchemy.
Yeah, I might do that.
Okay. That would probably be worth your while at some point. But while you're up here, you were telling me you were wanting to work on your steel skills?
Yeah.
You, as far as I know, you've already spent all your long rests, right? Or did you just do 1 session with Vinhold?
I did 2.
You did 2? So
Yeah.
you invested 2 of those into Vinhold and 5 into creating this portable forge.
Yeah, so I can't.
Yeah, so you won't be able to make a crafting check. But we can say for flavor that you continue reading that book that Master Rethimus had given you on crafting steel. and it was a manual. So basically, as long as you are, crafting steel, it gave you like, I think it gave you extra benefits to having that. So between your manual and having a smithy, a little forge here, I would go ahead and say that those effects would stack to basically give you tier 2. But only when you're crafting that steel armor, or just steel in general. If you're working on something like leather, that manual's not going to help you out, so you'd be back to tier 1.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So because of just the items that you have in the situation that you're in, you kind of have like a specialty in crafting steel, which tends to be more of a heavy armor type thing. But you will be able to make weapons and such like that out of steel, which will be nice, because they will be better than just like an iron weapon. Looking up from where you are, at the front of the ship, you see Rorqual kind of peeking down at you.
Oh yeah,
From
I
the crow's
bathed
nest.
Rorqual.
Okay.
Get all that crap off of him.
Yeah, so he climbs down, makes his way over here, and like cannonballs into the water at a point when you guys are all still. And then as the ship kind of does its thing, he grabs onto some ropes and climbs back up. But he smells more like seawater and less like rotting filth, which is nice.
Yeah.
You make a mental note to yourself as you're looking at like his fur, that you've got some herbs in your room that'll help ward off ticks and fleas. I'm sure he would appreciate that. As you guys are sort of looking at each other, Rorqual smiles at you very suddenly, and you note that his teeth are quite grimy.
Hmm.
And you're just like, I might have some herbs for this too.
Yeah. And clean his teeth.
Bathe him, clean his teeth, make sure he's good for flicks and teas. Ticks and fleas. Okay. Was there much more that you wanted to do with the session? Any particular scene you had in mind?
Not really. There's nothing else.
I will probably maybe see if I can do an improv session with Olivier to get her side of this little suspicious Floki and Marlin subplot that's going on board ship right now.
Yeah, that's pretty sketchy.
Something's
What
not,
if it was a mutiny?
something ain't right. And so these are all just like little events that sort of happened on your journey, at least while you were on board the ship here. But you noted that Avina's earlobes seem to be elongating. Vinhold is now able to produce flowers which immediately wilt. Floki seems sketchy. And you haven't been to Leonte or Olivier's rooms yet, but they're doing their own thing. But you now know like what your room and your forge benefits are. Speaking with Mama Swearto, you got a little bit, not much, but a little bit of insight, as she identified the thing in your shoulder as being foreign, but still rooted, like, in your energy.
What the fuck is that thing? Like, it's obviously not, well, so, I just don't know what it could be. I just don't know.
You did note last night that it was akin to the voice that was talking to you back in the abyss.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and pause the recording right here.